Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Training Unleashed. Today, we're going to have a great conversation with Michelle Beauchamp, which I think is close. Anyhow, before we get started, I want to take a moment and I want to thank our friends at C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio. Without you, I wouldn't have a show. Thank you for your sponsorship. I also want to let everyone know that we now have the Training Unleashed Network on YouTube. And of course, you can go to trainingunleashed.net to find episodes there. I love the topic of leadership because everything begins with leadership. Michelle, your new book came out and it's got a great title, Relearn Leadership.
Yes.
Tell us about what does it mean? What do you mean by relearn leadership?
Thank you, Evan. And thank you for inviting me to be on the show today. I'm really excited about it. Relearn leadership. I was in corporate America for a very long time, Evan, and I left almost 6 years ago. And what I realized is that things have changed from when I started and from when many people start. And we cannot lead the same way that we used to lead. And so relearn leadership means that, you know what? It might not work the same way that you used to. Your leadership might not be effective now. And it might have been before, but people have different expectations now and different goals, different desires, different dreams. And so because, as you said, leadership, it starts at the top, it starts everything, it impacts everything. We have to take responsibility to be willing to learn, to relearn, unlearn it, and then relearn it so that we can create the impact that we really want to have with the people who we employ.
So I totally concur with you. I think in a large case, it's because of generational changes, technology changes, people working from home.
Yes.
One of my favorite gurus is a gentleman by the name of Tom Peters.
Oh, yeah, I remember Tom Peters. Yeah.
Tom, and for a lot of the audience, because a lot of people used to be, you said his name, everyone knew him. He was
Right.
he was like Simon Sinek, but
Yeah.
30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a quote I use of his all the time, which is, it's harder to unlearn than it is to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
I do, because you get used to doing things, become habits. The way we treat people, for example, becomes a habit. I mean, one thing that I know is I'm really excited about this change too, that people are willing to embrace, and that is the ability to listen and to not judge. So one of the things that I think used to be the case is somebody would say something and be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they wouldn't really absorb it, kind of in one ear and out the other. Now, what my belief in it and my observation is that people really value listening. So yeah, it's harder. It's harder to it's hard to unlearn because we get into the habit of things. When we recognize, though, the benefit, then we're more likely to do it. So if we see that we establish better relationships with people who we work with, because in that example, we're willing to listen more, then it gives you a good reason to switch gears and say, you know what, seems like when I really engage with them, engage, you like that word,
I love that word.
become involved. When I really engage with them and I'm really paying attention and I'm acknowledging what they say, whether or not I agree with it, I'm acknowledging what they say, then the relationship becomes better. And I think the people who have maybe had more challenging times being willing to unlearn will be willing to relearn what works so that they can make a difference with people.
Before I ask the next question, I realized I forgot to mention that you're with the Champ Group and you're the CEO.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
And I also forgot to mention that Training Unleashed is part of the Learning Network. So the Learning Network is an amazing company, but we won't get into that right now. You have a statement, which is change your mindset, increase your impact, and transform your team.
Yes.
Now, I believe most people don't even have a mindset. They just go day by day, and they haven't even thought about what their mindset is. I've done a lot of work on my personal mindset.
Mm-hmm.
if you could see my screens, I actually have a depiction of it and keywords to help me focus on my mindset. So I'm going to ask you two questions.
Okay.
One is, how does one set a mindset? And two, why don't we answer that one? But the second one will be, once you have it, how do you shift it? What's the
Okay.
process you go to knowing you need to shift it? But
Okay.
let's just start with, how do you set a mindset?
Okay, I love that question. And so, for those who are watching and those who, if those are not, behind me, I have a poster that says mindset is everything, right? And there's a cat on the top, but a lion on the bottom, which helps me remember every day, because I see the poster every day, to check my mindset. So how do we set our mindset? That's the first question. How do we set our mindset?
Yeah, how does somebody, so why don't we start with basic stuff? What is mindset?
Yeah.
And then how do you choose what mindset you want, and how do you set it for people
Yeah.
that don't have mindset at all?
And so it starts with how we're thinking. I mean, and it's my belief too, that it's my belief that everything starts with the mindset, that everything we do is created by the thoughts that we have. If we have negative thoughts, we can go down a rabbit hole and come up with all kind of things and excuses about why something won't work, because our thinking was that it wouldn't work, it wasn't a good idea, nobody's going to want to buy this, on and on and on. So it starts with the way that we think. And I one of the things that I love sharing with people, and I do it a lot in training, is saying, it starts with the thought, which become our words, which become our actions, which become our habits, which become our character, which become our destiny, right? And so it starts in the thinking. And so people have to think about what you're thinking about, right? I mean, think about what you're thinking about. And you know what, Evan? I have a vision board. And on my vision board, and I've had this message on the same message for several years. I changed the vision board year in and year out, but some things I never take off. And one of them, two things actually. One is one of those little Valentine's Day hearts where it says self-talk, because we can really have some stinking thinking and we can not feel good about ourselves. So self-talk, when I have that on there, it makes me remember, Michelle, you need to change your self-talk. And the other thing I have on there, it says, what are you thinking? And sometime, and I look at that every morning, I'll realize that I need to shift my thinking. So this is going to kind of go into the next question, I think, that you asked.
But yeah, but before we do that, and
Okay.
this is a good reason to go to C-Suite TV or YouTube, our YouTube channel, Training Unleash network on YouTube. I just want to share with everyone, this is my mindset, the bald
The
eagle.
ego.
And I actually sourced the words for the word puzzle on Facebook. And
Oh,
I said to people, now the bald eagle, I don't want to be the bald eagle when I'm not bald. Uh, but I really like the eagle as a symptom
yes,
symbol.
yes.
And I went on and I said to people, when you think give me one word when you think of a bald eagle. And then I took all the words I got on Facebook and put
I
it
love
into
it.
those tools. And I came up with this, and I start my day and I read the board to myself. And if I'm making have an important meeting, I will reconnect to this.
Nice.
And so I just
There
thought
you go.
I would share it
Thank
for
you for
people.
sharing that. Oh, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And so that helps you reset. I mean, so it's about resetting, right? Like, you might have just had a bad experience, but that doesn't mean the rest of the day has to be that way. So then you look at your bold ego statement. I look at my mindset. So we both have visuals. It's funny. We both have visuals to help us make sure that we have the right thinking so that we can do the right things.
So you use the word change your mindset. When do you know you need to change your mindset?
That's a good question too, Evan. So to me, we need to change our mindset when we see that it's not making us feel fulfilled. It's making us question our abilities, and it's causing self-doubt, so that is the paying attention to that self-talk, causing self-doubt. So if we notice that we're not feeling right about things, so you know what it requires reflection. And sometimes I feel like we're so busy, me included, going from one thing to the other. And I think that since we've been in such a remote and hybrid work environment over the last few years, it is even more so that we just go, we get off of Zoom from one meeting and we hop on another one. And we don't take the time to reflect about how I felt about that meeting. What do I think how do I think I impacted the other person? How they impact me? So reflection and understanding how we're feeling, being in touch with our gut, our heart, is what helps us understand if we have the right mindset or not. And figuring out how are we impacting other people, right? I mean, if we're getting negative vibes from other people, then we have to take responsibility. I mean, we have to look inwardly. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I love what you're saying, because what you're saying really is you start to notice yourself not landing well,
Yeah.
right? And this could be either because something has changed,
Mm-hmm.
or what you have created for your mindset um, isn't the right one. It doesn't really jive with who you are, and you start to notice that.
Mm-hmm.
In thinking about it, in my career, I've had other mindset tools and had other mindset goals.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and and you mentioned this before earlier, you talked about listening. To me, one of the core things I like to do is I like to listen for why other people are right. I call it the kernel of truth.
Oh, I like that.
For a long time, my mindset tool was a picture of a kernel of corn, and I'm listening for the kernel of truth. So I want to shift gears, and also, by the way, encourage people to check out the book, because I think the book is a great it's a great way for, I think, people to look at their leadership style and reflect.
Thank you. Mhm.
Hey, let me tell you a secret. The Learning Network has come out with a new product called Breeze. And Breeze is the easiest to use course creation tool on the marketplace today. You want to look smart, you need Breeze. You want to get engagement, you need Breeze. You want to have a tool that can make you look great and will work with your LMS, you need Breeze. One of the cool things about Breeze is it's all drag and drop, all templated, super easy to be effective, but it's also SCORM based. So it can work in any LMS. And here, get this, when you want to update it, you update it in Breeze, and it will automatically update every instant in any LMS that you have the course. Go to learning.net and schedule a demo today. So I want to shift to culture.
Okay.
Okay. So when I think of mindset, I'm thinking of myself. And maybe culture is the mindset of the company. I don't know. Is that a good analogy? And
Yeah.
if not, what does culture mean to you?
Culture for me, it's a lot of things. And the good news is, again, the same way we're becoming more in tune to the value of listening, we're definitely becoming more in tune to the culture of a company. What is our culture? It's really, for me, how people act. How do they act at work? Do they greet each other when so if they're in person, do they greet each other when they come in, or do they just go straight to their desk and get to work, right? If they're on the screen and they're virtual and they're having their weekly meeting, do they take the time to check in to see how people are doing and establish some rapport, or do they just get, okay, here's our agenda? So that's all about culture. And I worked at a company for 10 years, and you know what I realized? I realized it actually year one, but I worked there for 10 years. I didn't like the culture, and if they happen to be listening, well, that's not going to be a newsflash. But, the culture was, how did it make me feel? Um, and so another thing that's becoming more popular now is psychological safety. How safe are we to raise our hand and say, I'm confused, I don't really get it? And how safe are we to say, I have this idea? And in that culture, there was so much, here's the way we're going to do it. We need for you to implement it. We don't really care if you agree. Now, that was hard for me too, because before that I had another business. So I was an entrepreneur. Then I came back I worked at the companies for several years, became an entrepreneur, did that for several years, went back to work for a company. And it was really challenging for me because at that point, I liked coming up with new ideas and contributing and challenging, and that wasn't okay at that company. So clearly, I decided that I wanted to get involved in another culture and do something different. So how you feel at work, how you behave at work, how you engage at work, that's the culture. That
Uh,
begins culture.
So I've heard other people say this. I say this. I can't remember who to attach it to. Every company has a culture. The question is, did you create the culture or did it happen? And
Mm,
when it happens, it can sometimes happen if leadership is really good and people admire leadership. You can accidentally create a great culture. But more times than not, it's the negative people that create the culture in an organization. So if, let's just say, I'm listening to this show and I say, you know what, I work in a company and, I'm in the training department, I'm in the HR department, I'm in the operations department, whatever department they're in, they're saying, you know what, we really need to define our culture and we need to build the tools to make that happen. How do people start? What is the methodology to determine what you want your culture to be?
mhm. For me, it's recognizing not so much, I mean, clearly, so I'm going to back up. Obviously, companies want to make a profit. We know that. That's the big picture, the vision. We're a profitable company. How we do that, though, most of the time, in my opinion, has to do with the people who work at the company. And so when we recognize we value the people, we have to understand what they value. And are we aligned? Are our values aligned? Like I mentioned, I know that my values weren't necessarily aligned with the company's culture that I worked at. There were some good things that happened for sure. And overall though, it's the valuing the people. And you know what? I joined the John Maxwell team several years ago now, and to get certified for coaching, speaking, and training. And before I joined his team, I read many of his books. So I was aligned with the values and principles and philosophies of his. And one of the things that um I learned from him, there's three things he said, and I really value these and apply these a lot, is that people are going to ask you questions if they want to join you. If you want to be a leader and nobody's following you, well, then you're not a leader. But when you want to get people who follow you, who walk beside you, not necessarily behind you, but walk beside you, they're going to be questioning, first of all, does this person care for me? You know, and that's like likability. Like, I don't know, do I want to work on that person's team because I don't really like them? So you have to decide, what kind of people are you going to hire, and what kind of people are you going to decide to go work for? Do I even like them? Are they likable people? Are they showing me that they care for me? Right? Are they compassionate people? And then another one that I learned from him was competence. I mean, we're going to have a culture where we're going to train people. You and I are totally into training. Are we going to train our people to be able to have the skill that we need for them to have, so that they can experience success and that they can do their best while they're working for us? So competence is really important. And how are we going to train and develop and upskill our people for the competence? And then the character. So are we a culture that when we say we're going to do something, we do it so that our people will trust us? If we say that we're going to deliver information on Friday of next week, are they going to know that when they look in their inbox, that information is there? Or are we going to say, are we not going to do that? So it's the character. So compassion, the competence, and the character, that for me is what really makes up the culture. And people need to be aligned in that. And nowadays, whoo, and you mentioned generations. You have a book on generations too.
I do.
Well, yeah, you have a book on that. And we have to recognize that there are different values among the generations, and how can we collaborate so that we can unify?
So Michelle, I want to take what you said and I want to re-say it and put it in sync because this is what I heard is you need to do an assessment of where your culture is now, what values people currently have. Then you want to assess what the values you feel would support the company. Then you need to do a gap analysis of where there is the lack of fit.
Yeah.
And that you need to train to correct the gap and maybe need to rehire to correct the gap if you have people that just simply aren't a good fit for the new culture of the company. Is
You
that,
summarized that very well, Evan.
I'm listening to you very attentively because you're
You're
very,
you, you're a great listener.
okay, Michelle, our audience now knows that you're a pretty smart person, that you really get leadership, you get culture, you get mindset. Can you tell us a little bit about your company, the Champ Group, what you guys do, who are the customers that are good fit for your organization?
Customers who are a great fit for us, a good match, we'll be aligned, would be companies who have teams of, it's various sizes. I'm going to say at least 50 to 60 employees because then they have people to train, right? They have enough departments to train. Here's the thing that's important for me, though. It's when the company realizes that training is an investment. Too many
Ah,
too many times I hear people, a training budget got cut. Wow. So recognizing that training is an investment and what I focus on,
can I provide you a different term?
yeah.
Recognizing that training is a profit center.
Oh, I like that even better. I like that even better, Evan. See, I'm
Because
learning. Yeah.
if you can improve performance,
Then you can,
if you can help them via training to improve close rate by 2%, how much is that worth? If you can help via training to reduce mistakes in manufacturing, what is that worth?
oh, yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
the same thing, but I really believe that training is a profit center.
I agree with you. I agree with you, and I appreciate you sharing it with me right now because that is what it is. Because we know, like I said, every business wants to have a profit, so that's true. So they profit, and the areas that I focus on are leadership, clearly. Along with that is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and then communications is the other aspect. So it's leadership overall is what I train on, and I'd like to do workshops. Here's the thing that I really like to do, Evan, is I like to do training on an ongoing basis because what I know to be true, and I know you agree, is that a one-time workshop is good to get people involved, you like that word, engaged and excited. The thing that I see that happens too much though is that then they get busy and that was good, but they're not necessarily incorporating the tools and the training and development that they got. So what I love is when companies hire me to work with them on a consistent and an ongoing basis. So different training, mastermind group cohorts, mastermind groups where people come together, individual coaching. So all of that is what I really like to do.
Now, I noticed on your website, you do workshops, corporate training, relearn leadership mastermind groups, and one-on-one coaching.
Yes.
Uh, so, and this is really not about your company, just because I think it's interesting. Because I believe companies can have their own mastermind groups within their own companies and things of that nature. What is the beneficial difference, or maybe the difference, because each one has different benefits, between one-on-one coaching and a mastermind group from your perspective?
One-on-one coaching is where people can bring their own individual challenges to me and
Yeah.
we can work them out together. So personalized attention. It's all about them, right? It's only about them in the one-on-one. And also very confidential, right? Because it's just one-on-one where they can feel more comfortable being honest and being real about what's going wrong and what's going right. So that's the one-on-one. The mastermind, the benefit is the collaboration and the synergy that happens between people who have so like-minded people coming together and feeling that once they hear other people's challenges, like, oh my goodness, I thought I was alone in that. You experience that too. And Think and Grow Rich. That's what we learned from Napoleon Hill many years, so many years ago, the value of putting minds together and recognizing that people can collaborate, and also just not feeling alone, feeling empowered and not feeling alone, and getting solutions and working on them together.
I realize that we have done a great job bringing back icons. Napoleon Hill,
Yeah,
Maxwell, Tom Peters.
you're right.
So,
You're right. That's
uh,
funny. Yeah, when you said Tom Peters, what I remember taking from him was managing by wandering around. You remember that? It's
oh,
like
yeah.
get out of that office and go out there and see what's going on in your company with the people. So you're
So
right. We have brought some back.
why don't you tell the audience how to reach your company and also about your offer?
Okay. I would love for people to reach out to me. My website is thechampgroup.com. So that's easy, thechampgroup.com. I do have an offer that I would love to gift to you, and it's a leadership quiz. So when you take that leadership quiz, it doesn't take, it's like 2 minutes. So hopefully you have 2 minutes in your time to learn about your leadership style. And how you can get that is thechampgroup.com/leadership style quiz. So thechampgroup.com/leadership style quiz. And it's going to take 2 minutes, and you'll get a good assessment about your leadership style. And maybe you'll be surprised, and maybe you'll say, ooh, I'm not sure if I feel good about this, but it's all about self-awareness, right? We just always want to know. It's all about self-awareness so that we can learn and grow.
And for those people that have a hard time with long URLs, you could go to thechampgroup.com and go to resources and scroll down to leadership style quiz.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Just go there to resources and scroll down,
Yes.
and it'll take you.
So Michelle, we love to end the session with you sharing one tip that you would love to share with the audience. What is your one tip?
My one tip is to stretch out of your comfort zone. It's hard when we stretch, exercising and such, it hurts. Those muscles, it hurts. And once we do it, and we do it consistently, then it doesn't hurt anymore. So that has to do with relearning too. So stretch out, be willing to stretch out of the comfort zone, and relearn so that we can make a bigger impact on people.
You're sneaking in two. Relearn, stretch. But I
Stretch.
guess you could combine it as one because you're stretching to relearn.
Exactly. That's it, Evan.
Well, Michelle, thank you very much. On
Thank you.
behalf of the Learning Network, I want to thank the listeners, particularly all of you who are here at the end. We really appreciate it. I also want to thank our sponsors, C-Suite TV and C-Suite Radio. And this would be an excellent episode to watch on YouTube TV or on C-Suite TV, because you would get to see my mindset board.
Yes.
Everyone have a great day.